Hey, this is Matt. Welcome to another video. Why you need to get on Finasteride if you are flying to Turkey for a hair transplantation, if you want to avoid this happening to you. If you look at Turkey, what they like to do, they offer those max graft strategies where they will be able to give you as many grafts as it takes during one surgery to just fix everything what is balding on your head, which is something where in the US would need 2 surgeries or more to do. Now, what is the problem of this max graft strategy? It will be using up too many grafts too quickly. If you do 4 to 5,000 grafts, that can be easily 75%-ish from an average total donor zone capacity. That means if you do that, you don't have that much more left for the future. Imagine your donor area as your life reservoir that should last you decades. Because otherwise, you're gonna end up with, what, 1,000 grafts, 1,500 more left, and trust me, they will tell you, you can come another time and they can do another 4,000, but these are the lies that they often like to tell people to make them believe as if their donor would be like endless. And I know what I'm talking about. I visited 15 clinics in Turkey, reviewed another 40 of them, and even had my first hair transplant done in Turkey in 2017 and had to be repaired, unfortunately, because it wasn't the best one. And with my one-on-one consulting service, I was able to help more than 2,000 men since 2018 to avoid the most common pitfalls of this industry. So whenever a hair transplant strategy is aggressive, it needs finasteride. It needs the security, right? There are 2 ways how you can make hair transplant aggressive. Either you get an aggressive looking hairline, like a straight hairline, low squaring of your forehead.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
And the second thing is you are using way too many follicles out of your donor during your first hair transplant already, and that especially if you are a young guy in your 20s. That aggressive strategy needs backup, right? And why it's especially the case in Turkey? Well, Turkish hairline design style, it tends to be rather aggressive. It tends to give you that straight across look with follicles placed in very high densities, giving you that Turkish style hairline that is so full it almost acts as a statement along the lines of, I have been to Turkey and I got my hair back, and everybody can see it, right? Because the change is just so dramatic. But let's talk about 2 things in today's video that are like silent drawbacks of Turkish clinics that many people are not able to see, and why taking medication is especially important in these types of situations. So number 1 is the donor area management or graft management of many Turkish clinics. Allocating too many grafts too soon has been ruining patients' lives and also their future hair transplant options for many years already. And that's why there are also sites and institutions that are like against the black market in different countries, not just Turkey, India, and some other third world countries. Be careful, guys. Now, here we can see several examples. These are actually videos that you can watch later that I made on teaching men's fashion's brother who went to Turkey. He got a very aggressive hair transplant strategy with close to 5,000 grafts for a very small area that needed a change, a fix, and I think he paid a very high price with his donor as well. Also, this one, which is called most aggressive hairline, where you can clearly see that the guy didn't even need a hair transplant and he could have waited easily, but they ended up transplanting many thousands for his hairline just to satisfy him in the short run. You lose big with this strategy to win small. There were several clients of mine over the years where I was able to see this over and over again, where they came from a specific clinic in Turkey. It was an inefficient work like this, and they were either seeking best options that still are possible to do from this point on that of course will be limited now, and also in the worst case they were also consulting with me like possible corrections. So this is kind of the Turkish style. It will be okay for some. Maybe if you are in your 40s, 50s, you are not likely to lose as much hair as during the most aggressive hair loss stage of man's life, which is, for some in their teens, early 20s to like mid 30s. Like if you're beyond that, the strategy of Turkey will more likely be okay-ish for you, and you'll probably not pay such a high price with your donor and with your mental well-being later on. For all of you young guys in your 20s, early 30s, be very, very cautious. Now, the second point I want to discuss about Turkey is their graft inefficiency. And again, all of these problems are problems, but for the price that you pay, it's like still a fair deal that you get. Like, I'm not talking bad about Turkey. I'm just trying to point out some very key things that you need to understand. If you want to go the Turkish way, go there. Make sure you can make it work and you have a plan if things will start to go too aggressive too quickly. So to illustrate you the point number 2, which I like to call graft deficiency, let's look at these two before and after results. We are seeing result A and the result B. Look at the result A for a while and see how many grafts were transplanted, and just take a look at it, how it kind of looks. And now let's do the same with the result B. We see that the result B understands better how to efficiently utilize the thickness, the texture, and the other properties of the patient's hair to create an illusion of density and fullness, because that's what hair transplant is. It is not to give you the same density you once used to have when you were younger. No, it's giving you probably half of that density, but it makes it look as if it will be the same fullness. And that's the artistry behind it that many clinics are missing. And that's a problem with the clinic A. We see that they used way more follicles to get an adequate density and coverage. In fact, you could say that they get even worse density and fullness with more grafts. Like, how the hell is that possible? Well, welcome to this phenomenon that I like to refer to as graft deficiency. That means how many grafts will the clinic waste to give you a desired density and coverage on a specific area of a scalp. Now, in Turkey, many clinics tend to take more grafts from your donor because their strategy and their internal surgical model relies on it. And you cannot really simply tell them like, hey guys, take less grafts. I want to have my donor preserved, but hey, I want to still the same density and thickness as with the other guys on your testimonials. Like, you cannot do it. Of course, they will try to naturally apply the max graft strategy to your case as well. Like, you don't go to the Ford Motors factory and ask them to produce you a Tesla. These clinics do it because it guarantees you to have a high density, because that's their way of giving high density, but they waste plenty of grafts because they don't have the artistry. They don't really understand the property of that hair on such a high level compared to the best of the best doctors who are more graft efficient, as we have seen on the previous example. Lower graft survival rate than normal can also be a reason why some of the high graft hair transplant results from Turkey equal the results from other clinics, where these clinics used maybe 30 to 50% fewer grafts while achieving the same or similar coverage effects and or density. On one hand, Turkish clinics tend to work fast, which minimizes the time where the grafts are out of the body, and that has been shown in studies that if we minimize that time, it's going to assure that the grafts will have very good survival. But on the other hand, the fast work and multiple people extracting from the donor area at the same time and not very well organized teamwork can cause negligent behaviors like improper graft manipulation when the grafts are stored or touched during the implantation, or sorting the grafts phases. Such potential mishandling of grafts could cause more trauma to the grafts, and as a result of that, they won't have their fullest survival rates, as shown in the study on hair graft survival from 2016 that concluded that the optimal graft placing time on the doctor's hand during the transplantation should be no more than 4 minutes, optimally 2 to 3 minutes. So when doctors or assistants or technicians are transplanting those grafts, they usually put a bunch of them on their hands and then they take it from the hand and place it in. The problem is if they take too many and they keep these grafts there out of the storing solution, if they stay like this for 5, 6, 7 minutes, like the last ones that will be picked from the hand will not have the optimal survival, and they do it because it's more comfortable. So if you are about to book yourself the max graft experience in Turkey, make sure that you are on a stable, sustainable hair keeping protocol, and especially if you are in your 20s. if you're in your 20s, you should have at least 1 year or 2 year history of no hair shedding and no further miniaturization before doing a max graft strategy. And even then, I would probably start with a smaller session anyways, just to be safe, just to see if the clinic can deliver with fewer grafts and just preserve your donor well. So if you need more help navigating the hair transplant industry, check out my one-on-one help. The link is in the video description below, or my must-watch before your hair transplant playlist that I'm gonna link also in the video description below. Thanks for watching and see you next time.